Good evening, everybody. I hope everybody is well out there. Welcome in to, I was going to say another live lesson then. I've got a bit too used to saying that. But tonight we're doing a live interview. So what is this all about? So 6-week Marching Drummers Challenge is back again. So we're on about week 3 now. We've got about another 4 weeks left. And as promised, we're going to do some interviews with some awesome people. We're going to be doing some live lessons and some discussion. Now, some of you guys are going to be dropping in for the first time, I'm sure, this evening. I want to give you a little bit of an idea of what's going on. So basically on a Wednesday evening and a Saturday, we're doing live lessons. I'm trying to impart a little bit of drum corps knowledge on you guys. And on some of those Wednesday evenings, we're managing to get some awesome guys in for some interviews. Now, if you want to get involved in this, we got the drum hang as well, which is something we do at the end of the lessons where we basically go through all the exercises we've been learning together and basically chop out together. So tonight we're doing an interview. We've got YouTube lessons going on. We've got discussions going on. Now, if you guys want to comment tonight, type away. It'll appear on my screen, which is why you're going to keep seeing me glancing over here. And I'll be able to give some interviews to our guest. So what I'm going to do is we're going to get him up. Any guys who are interested, search Marching Drummers Lounge tonight. All the information's in there. Facebook group. Right, let's get going. So, right, tonight. So we've got someone awesome in for you tonight. So all the way from Impulse 2015, local drum corps, all the way through to the heights of Blue Devils, RCC. He's won multiple championships already. He's still got time left. He's still got another year left at least. And he's now dominating YouTube, or certainly starting to dominate YouTube. So tonight we've got the awesome, let's give a virtual round of applause to Mr. Sean Parra. How you doing? I want to cry.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure, man. Thank you for coming on. We really, really do appreciate you coming on tonight. So, right, we're going to talk about all sorts of things this evening, or daytime for you. So what we're going to talk about to start with, I'd like to go through a little bit of your drum corps experience, because you really have come from Impulse, which I was trying to do some research on Impulse. Now, Impulse is a competitive corps, but they don't always do the whole season, do they? Is that correct?
Right. Yeah, when I marched, we didn't even go to Indy. We just did like a northern tour from like California and like Oregon, Washington. Then we just went straight back down. So our tour was only like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And yeah, we never even went to Indy. So.
Wow. So was that? So what? So let's go all the way back then. So, what's your very first drum corps experience? I mean, like the day when you very first kind of saw and thought, "That's cool. I'm gonna try and do that."
I guess the first time I saw marching drums was in high school. It was my freshman year, and I mean my freshman year I did the front ensemble.
Okay.
But yeah, I saw drums and then I was just like, what is this? You know, because I was in middle school band, but something about marching drums like was so much different than that, and I was so much more attached to that. So that was like the first time I had ever seen something like that, and then I was like into it ever since.
So did you have family connections who were in drum corps, or siblings, or like no, nothing like that?
No. The only thing is my dad was like in marching band, but
Yeah.
that was it.
That was a long time before. Okay, cool. Well, so teachers, who was teaching you then at the start? So you started at Impulse, and then
Right.
in indoor line. So who were the teachers that you remember from back then that maybe had an influence on you?
Impulse, I was taught by Fernando.
Okay.
Like he was the guy that like kind of wrote the beats. His name's Fernando. He marched like Pacific Crest, and he like runs the whole like Pasadena City College stuff.
Yeah.
So and yeah. So he kind of showed me like the ropes of like when I first started like doing independent stuff. So yeah.
So is that drum corps kind of a stepping stone for people to get into touring? Right.
Yeah, I would definitely call it stepping stone because one, it's open class.
Yeah.
Which are usually stepping stones. And it was local, so it was like easier for me to do it. So yeah.
Okay, so if we move on a little bit then, so then you start to do some indoor stuff, Elan and then Dark Sky. So obviously people who are watching from Europe at the moment will be will know what WGA is from watching it on videos, and there is a kind of a circuit over here, but it's nothing like what you guys have got out there. So can you maybe talk a little bit about how you got into that, or why you did that first?
Yeah. So That's actually interesting because my high school at the time didn't have indoor, and it was my senior year, and I wanted to march indoor, so I went and auditioned for an independent group my senior year. And I ended up making a lawn percussion. It
Yeah.
was like an open class indoor, so that was like my first exposure to that. And then I marched, obviously dark sky after that, and then RCC after that. So yeah, everything kind of fell into place.
So we sort of mentioned yesterday about this a little bit when I spoke to you, but the transition from Dark Sky to RCC, I imagine that's quite a big jump, a hefty jump. So because you were what
Right.
you'd have been like, I tried to find out, but I guess you were like 16th, 17th, that kind of position, and then RCC. Am I right in saying you won in your first year? Did you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So like, how did you find that jump? I mean, I had a similar thing. Like, I went from drum corps in the UK to Blue Devils, and so for me, it was a whole different world. It was kind of like bang in your face, trying to claw my way to catch up. So, what was it like for you?
Yeah. I would say it was similar, sort of. I mean, I took the summer of 17, and all I did, it was like me, Ricky Gildemontes, he marched RCC and Blue Devils with me, and George Collins,
Yeah.
which we met George through Dark Sky, and obviously you marched with George in '95,
Yep.
right? And so he knew the goal for us was to march RCC. He knew that was like the end goal. So he he kind of said like, okay, well, like if that's what you guys want to do, let's drum weekly. And what we did was like, well, we worked on technique, but we also worked on percussion IQ, which is like a really good like tool to use because obviously it's ran by like Matthew Regwa, which he also runs RCC, or like he teaches RCC.
Yeah.
So we worked on that like not every day. Well, we'd work on it every day, but we'd meet up like once a week and drum on drums.
Can I?
And that was like that was what's up?
Can I jump in there? So, would you call it
Yeah.
percussion IQ? I'm not 100% sure. I know what that is, and maybe some of the other people. Can you talk about maybe what that is? Is that just a package you work through or something?
Yeah, so percussion IQ is kind of like the best way I can explain it is it's like a it's kind of like the how to explain it? It's like basically there's like five exercises and like a piece like a rudimental kind of piece,
Yeah.
and you play each exercise twice. You record yourself all in one take. You record each exercise twice and the audition piece or whatever once, and you send that in, and then you get an evaluation back on your score and like where all this stuff. And obviously it's done by Matthew Regua, which he marched Blue Devils RCC, and he also teaches RCC.
Yeah.
So it was just like direct information, and it's super specific. There's like graphs, and then there's like technique, and you get an audio kind of thing of him analyzing your video, and you also get a like a chart, so you get a score out of it too. It's really nice.
Yeah, that sounds a great way of improving. You get that instant feedback, and that's cool. So that time that you had then between 2017, 2018, like what's the sort of nitty gritty that you worked on? Like the guys who are watching now who want to be similar to you one day, like was it very basic stuff, or were you already trying to learn to play the difficult stuff at that point?
I would say at that point I was trying to learn the more difficult stuff.
Yeah.
I will say still though, like basics should be like most of like what you should practice for sure. But the vocabulary on like the percussion IQ stuff, like all those exercises were a lot more advanced. So to play those, we had to work on like some specific mechanics or some specific skill sets for sure.
Yeah. So you mentioned some other guys. Now I don't know all the guys' names. I'll be honest with you, but I've seen familiar faces. So in with you at Dark Sky, and then with you at RCC or BD, and like, have you come through those programs together, like competitively, like with each other, or have you helped each other? Will you be friends, or how's that work?
Oh yeah, I will say like the indoor scene is very very united. Even though like we're all competing, it is really cool because I feel like everyone is one really really good, but two it's like everyone's like just homies. It's really nice. It's a good community.
Yeah.
So
yeah. That's some of this. I don't want to say change because it makes it sound awful, but back a long time ago, sort of my day, it was very you were sort of bred to dislike every other corps. You know, if it was like for us, it was kind of Cavaliers. It was like no matter who it was, we had to hate them. That was it. And so it's cool that that's changed.
Yeah, that's funny.
Well, you mentioned, so I was going to ask you about failures a little bit now, only because people are going to see you as like on the, you know, at the very top of the elite, and then you brought out a video on YouTube this week talking about the exact subject. So people go check that video out. But I'd like to maybe still talk a little bit about that, because you spoke in there that you had auditions and you'd been cut. Like, how did you personally get through those? How did you get through that, or you know, what happened?
Getting cut really like it really hurts, you know, because it kind of like it feels like it's part of your like um identity slash ego, but really it's just feedback, and that's like the best way to take it. So me getting cut was just like, although in the moment it would really hurt, I would like take that and keep working, because I knew like eventually like I could turn like whatever feedback I got into strengths.
Yeah.
And like I said, it is something that it is hard to train yourself to enjoy that, like kind of like getting cut is not fun, but you can enjoy what comes after, which is the growth.
Yeah.
So
where,
definitely.
I mean, I completely agree with you. I think when I was doing drum corps, like 20s, I'd have been devastated. You know what I mean? But I've kind of learned the same as yourself. It's kind of like when you fall over, you learn from that, don't you? And you get up. I mean, is that something that you were taught by people, or do they give you that feedback, or was it a little bit more ruthless than that?
I think for sure I had to like learn that myself.
Yeah.
It definitely depends too what kind of person you are as like as an individual just in life. Because if you are the kind of person that like likes to blame other things instead of like kind of reflect, then you're gonna have a hard time with that.
Yeah.
But I think that that's also like a good tool to kind of like check yourself out and you know see it from a different perspective and like really humble yourself. I think that's a really humbling opportunity, and a lot of people either you know grow from it, or you know they just say, you know what, like I'm not, this is, you know, like they kind of turn away from it, you know?
Yeah. You've got to be you've got to be a certain type of person to make it through that. To make it through that, you know, to make it through being cut and then getting back and going again. Well, I want to talk a little bit about this is a question as much for me as anything else, is the difference between WGI and DCI for you as a performer. So obviously you guys use the same drums, you know, you probably use the same sticks. I'm sure some of the instructors are the same, but I'm seeing a lot from the outside world of how the drum line seem to play very softly, and obviously indoors is a slight different writing experience. But is there anything for you as a performer that's different? Or
Yeah, definitely. I would say drum corps, it's very much more like I feel like in drum corps you can kind of have like a strict face the whole time, and you can kind of be in one mode. Indoor, it's more like you have to really like you have to play the part of like whatever you're supposed to be performing, and you know it can call for more of a stoic look, or it can call for more of like a aggressive look, or it can call for more of a like there's different characteristics for sure. I think indoor obviously expresses all those, and I think outdoor it kind of stays in one a little bit more.
yeah.
So yeah, that's what I found.
So do they teach? How do they teach? Because to me, it's almost like watching a West End show now when you watch WGI, as in like you just said, you portray emotions as well as playing drums. So
Right.
how do they teach that, or do you practice that only at camps? Do you practice it at home? I mean, do you stand in front of a mirror practicing movements and stuff? And how's that work?
Yeah, yeah. It's funny. Like I think it is something that you have to really, because if you're given a piece of music and you can hear like what the front ensemble is playing, and you know what the show, like what's happening in that moment of the show, um then it's like to me it's sometimes they don't have to say it. Sometimes we just know exactly what to portray because we kind of feel what's going on at this certain moment. And that intuition kind of like takes a while. For me, for sure, in 2018 RCC, it was really hard for me to perform for a lot of the season because I just didn't know how to express myself properly. But the more I've done it, the more I just I have like more of an intuition for like, okay, I know this part's gonna be a little bit more like aggressive, or this person's gonna be a little bit more like soft in like the face and like like the little inflections that you give off. But it is something that sometimes they have to say, but I think more often than not, it's something that you have to find yourself. And
Right.
then it creates for everyone to be their own individual kind of blending together, rather than everyone being like a copy and paste of each other.
Yeah, I see. Well, as far as drum corps concerned, then the same kind of context. So before I went out with an English corps to DCI, '94. That's right. And so we went and we watched, and we watched all the lines in the lot. And I remember watching cadets, and there were two guys in that line, and I remember one had big glasses, big black glasses, and he was just like in a trance. And there was a snare player who was the same, and they were fully like that was how it was. It was like fully trance. And then when I went out and marched, in my head, I was those guys. Even though I was in Blue Devils, like when I got in the lot, I was like going to that character. So I went into the character for the whole season of those guys. Like, did you have guys that you were in character of, or maybe guys that you wanted to be? Like back in the day when I was marching, it would have been like everybody was into SCV. Everyone was like wanted to be SCV 92, 91 because we marched. Like, what's it like for you guys now? Are you still looking at guys 5 years ago? Were you
100%, 100%. It's crazy. Like the people, there's like a lot of role models I have that march RCC and Blue Devils, and I'll just look at how they perform, and and like naturally I try replicating. I think that's something else that really helps, is kind of thinking about who is your favorite performer, and trying to replicate kind of that sort of identity, and like kind of morphing into your own, obviously. But I think that helped me a lot. Like, definitely, definitely. It's really funny you say that, because I've definitely like caught myself like trying to like get a little bit off that, getting a little
yeah.
bit off that like performance that I saw when I was watching. Um, so
Yeah,
yeah.
no, fully. I mean, for me, it was literally. I guess it was a bit like, so I play drum kit now for a living, and so I get to hide behind cymbals now, and I haven't got people in my face. And the thing with drum corps, it's more for you guys now because everybody's got a mobile phone. But when you first go out to shows, I just remember people turning up with big cameras and big lights, and I kind of, by going into that zone, I was able to hide, I guess, a little bit. Now with you with WGI, I guessing because you've got to act, it's a little bit different. You've got to kind of lose your inhibitions maybe to do that stuff.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of trial and error for sure. I think you just have to try something out, and if it doesn't feel right, then maybe try something else. I know for me, like for example, for me, uh, smiling while performing, like if that was ever called for a show, for me it feels very awkward.
Yeah.
It feels very strange, because it kind of like, it really is. I don't know. It's kind of like, it doesn't feel right to play an aggressive chunk and have a smile on my face. So that's something like personally, like it has been really difficult for me. So I
Yeah.
think like, whatever it is, you just have to keep trying it until it becomes kind of more of a natural feeling.
Yeah, no, I've been through that as well. So over here, I play in a drum line, which would be, I guess, the closest equivalent for you guys would be some of the guys who play at like the 49ers or the what do they call those drum lines? So like NFL lines and that kind of thing. Um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and that's very
I don't
much
know what they call them, but
no, but you know
yeah.
what I mean. So that's very much having to smile and look happy even if you're not. And so for us doing that, the first time we were practicing, we were all smiling and laughing and high fiving, and then as soon as you get in front of people, everybody goes back to that natural drum corps zone, and it's a difficult one to get out of. Well,
Yeah, yeah.
what I want to do then is I want to ask you a little bit about BD, but I just want to quickly check. So, guys who are watching in at the moment, so anybody's watching, obviously tonight, if you type things in, it's going to come up on my screen, so I can ask questions. If you've got any questions you're desperate to know, then I'll do my best to get those in. So feel free to type in and ask. I've just got a couple of moments. Okay, we'll come to that one in a minute, Cole. So, what I was going to ask you about was BD. So when I was there was certain parts of the show where they would give the drummers a bit of input. That's the best way I can put it. So there was always shopping spree. The Santa Snare would make that up, the section leader. Or there'd be like, for tenors when we marched, the whole solo, if there was scrapes, they would just write it on one line and we'd be allowed to go and make up scrape patterns. Now, is there still any of that stuff that happens? Do you get any input?
I would say there's probably more input now than there's ever been,
Wow.
which is really awesome. Yeah, yeah. I've definitely heard about like what you just said about writing like the shopping sprees and stuff, but now it's like we're getting to write the body that we're doing, like whatever like kind of body we're trying to do, or sometimes like this past summer for like the snare break, it was actually like morphed with a lot of the ideas that the snare line sent in, and they just wrote kind of like those ideas into it, which is really awesome. I think it's really cool that we're actually getting to kind of, write the show a little bit,
Yeah,
So,
I think as a player, you maybe buy into it more when you've had a say in it. And I think I heard Scott do an interview recently, and he was, I think, I can't remember if it was him that said it. I think it was, but he was sort of, I don't want to quote him wrong here, but he was sort of almost suggesting that the guys like yourself are going to be fresh, so you're going to come up with the stuff that's current. And obviously he's got to every year come up with stuff that's current. So by using the knowledge in the line, it helps. But
right.
I've just had a couple of questions. So the first question to BT, what's the schedule? So when back in like the 90s, and we had to move in like January. Now WGI has obviously changed that a lot for you. So how does it work now with BD in particular?
With Blue Devils, the schedule is obviously, we wake. I'm not sure about times, but I'll just say like the block schedules, I guess. We would wake up and obviously eat, and then we go into like a visual block in the mornings. So we'd like do a stretch, maybe like we'd stretch for about like 45 minutes to an hour, which is something that not a lot of courts do. And from there we'd run visual projects, and then that would be like probably all of first block. And then second block would probably consist of it would switch sometimes. Either we'd go back to Vish or we'd do some battery stuff. And then night block is a full ensemble thing. Something that a lot of people don't actually know about Blue Devils is like the drum line plays like we don't how to explain it. We spend so much time in Vish that we like sometimes don't get to drum. Sometimes it's kind of crazy. So we just have to like turn it on and just like be able to like play.
So visual blocks now,
well,
you wouldn't play during a visual block. The drum line wouldn't, or would they?
We would go off maybe like for 10 minutes or 15 and run a couple exercises and come back and then start drumming.
Start drumming, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So as far as the schedule as moving, like do you move in still? Do you have to go and live up in Sacramento these days, or drive up from for camps, or how early in the year do you have to move in now?
So last year it was May 17th, I believe.
Yeah.
And that was move-ins.
Right.
And it's the same way at Blue Devils. You basically rehearse at either Mars. I'm sure you rehearsed at Mars, or we now rehearse at Los Medanos.
Okay.
College, and we had to find our own like place to stay basically, and then we just keep going. And it's really nice because it's like the drumline had a house, so we would, after rehearsal, we'd go to a house, and it'd be like our own privacy. And it was really nice because it was just like we made our own food. It's just all that stuff really like it really taught us to be like, one, how to live together, but two, how to be like an adult in this like around, right? So it's interesting.
No, I mean I think I learned more in the month before all days in living in the house than I did at any other point, because you're just drumming non-stop. You practice all day, you come home, you drum all night, and so I learned a lot there. I've got a couple of questions then. So so someone's just asked if other corps have members, right? I know you might not be able to answer that question, but some of the other guys from some of the other lines that you might deal with, do you know if that's something that happens in other corps where they give the members a certain amount of input? See, I know at cadets that didn't happen at all when I was there. It was all written for us, but it may be different now.
Honestly, I'm not really sure. I would want to say yes.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure. I've never marched those groups, so I wouldn't be able to tell you.
Well, I've got a specific question actually that I wanted to ask you. So I'm going to put up the little video of the moonwalk. If I can just get my mouse to come back to life, 1 second. So hopefully the sound will come through. So that was a cool, memorable. What's the word? Like that's a moment there that people are going to talk about for a long time. How's that come about? Can you remember?
That is so funny. So the person that came up with that body specifically was Jacob Little, and like he unfortunately couldn't finish off the season with us because he had some health issues.
Yeah.
And he marched RCC in Blue Devils, but. It's funny, Scott kind of said, like, to the drumline, like, we need to come up with a body for this drum break, like, whatever you guys want to do. And then that night, it was him. I think it was him and also a quad player, Will Mitzuk. He also marched RCC and obviously Budos, and they came the next day and they were talking that night and they were just saying like we should just do the moonwalk because I think part of the show was it was like Michael Jackson right before we went up to play that drum break. It was Michael Jackson, so we were just like, well, let's do the moonwalk. And obviously like that moonwalk is like it was a lot more difficult than I don't know. We had to like learn how to moonwalk correctly, and we would have like contests kind of like everyone would go down the line and we'd just watch everyone's moonwalk. So we kind of like analyze everyone, and then having to do it in time while playing. I think that was a whole other thing for sure. So yeah.
Well, also because you're facing your back. You can't see behind you, so the guy at the front can't copy anybody, so it's kind of like it's got to be difficult to learn to do that stuff. How do you clean it? Does someone stand in front of you like a color guard person or something like that, or does Scott do that stuff these days? Like, who cleans movement? Is it Vish guys or is it drumline guys?
You're saying the listening situation?
No, I mean, so how would you go about cleaning your body movements? So the movements that you do now. Who sort of says like, oh, you're doing it wrong, or you're leaning a little bit more than this? Does people come around and clean that stuff, or do you guys just figure it out?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I think like I remember Scott saying to me one time, he's like, I think you're a little fast on the moonwalk. So it's just like I think he would just maybe look at it, and people would just kind of like analyze the whole thing and maybe like call out if someone's kind of slow or fast, because to do it like smooth, it's a little strange. So we kind of like we tried defending it as much as we could. But honestly, someone would just like, if anyone was watching and saw something was off, they would say something. It's hard to if you're playing, it's hard to analyze what's going on.
Of course,
so obviously, someone from the outside will have to do it.
Yeah. That looked difficult. Well, something I definitely want to talk about. Someone else has just mentioned it. So, your YouTube channel. So you've had a lot of success already with the YouTube channel, and we'll talk a bit more about that. The thing that stood out for me instantly was when you started doing the learning of other drumlines parts. Now that was genius on so many levels. Like you like a competitive side, it's like you know what everyone else is doing, and for like personal reasons you get better, and everyone just loved it, I think. So where did that concept come from?
I'm not really sure actually. I just remember having the thought of doing Vanguard only. That was like the only one I thought of. I was like, oh, just do Vanguards. And so I learned the music, and then I did it, and then I got really good feedback, and a bunch of people were like, "Do Crown." I was like, "All right, I'll do Crown." So I did Crown next. So just like it started off with Vanguard, and then it just kind of morphed into like doing every drumline after that.
So what have you learned from doing those? Like there must be either rudiments or skills that you didn't have that or maybe you maybe had them but you didn't have instantly. There's got to be some things in those shows that were difficult.
Yeah, definitely. I'm trying to think right now. I think some things were just like, I think one of the main like challenges was memorizing all the music. That was really difficult. I think memorizing the music was probably one of the toughest things because, obviously I didn't march a whole summer playing that music.
Yeah.
And then like if I'm like, okay, I'm gonna put out a video like in a couple of days, then I have to like crank out all this music and like rehearse it. So I would say that was really difficult. But I think what it really showed me was the writing styles are different. But I really like some of the stuff that is in like each different drumline. Like I actually grew to appreciate like what they were playing. I was like, dang, that was really cool, or that was really cool, and it really showed me that like everyone's really good. Like there's no hiding that. There's no like dispute about that. Everyone's just super, super good. So, I mean, it's like a lot of respect, basically.
Yeah, no, as you said, that a lot of guys, which is certainly different now, will come from different drum corps, and then you see each other on WGI, and then you split up again, and you're competing against each other. That must be fun. It must be awkward, and all those other things, right? When you're competing against your friends. But okay, so there's a couple of things I want to ask you about. So. Well, first of all, what else can we expect from YouTube? Like, I know you've mentioned to me that you're going to be spending a lot more time. Is there anything you can tell us on that at the moment?
I think I'm going to try doing maybe some, like, I don't know. I want to see, like, it's not like, okay, how can I explain it? Sorry.
It's okay.
It's like I love drumming. But I think I want to try maybe doing other sorts of things because as much as I love drumming, it is something that I think I don't know. I think I want to try maybe doing other things just because now that I'm aging out, I want to see what else I can do.
Yeah.
And obviously, like I think I'm still gonna have drumming stuff every now and then for sure, but I want to see how much I can expand on the platform.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not really sure what specifically, but
Yeah.
I know I'm trying to like try some different things out.
Well, you can see you growing. Like your editing skills are on point, and obviously you're going to get better and better at that stuff. So yeah, keep doing that. It's
Thank
great.
you.
People are loving that stuff. Um, okay, so yeah, 'cause one thing that stood out actually, I was watching one of your videos, and you said I can't remember what it was on, but you said that RCC 2018, you were like, I felt like I didn't deserve to be there. Now, I don't know why, but there's certain things in your videos that obviously stand out to different people at different points, and that one to me was like, it kind of hit home because I kind of know that feeling when I had it the very first we did Pavilion. Do you still do Pavilion gig? So Pavilion gig used to be pre-season. It'd be like
Pavilion?
so I think now you would call it like Family Day or something like that. You do a performance, and it used to be a standstill.
Yes.
And I remember
Yeah.
being stood there with all these Blue Devils. I felt like it was like 24 Blue Devils and me. It was kind of like. And that took a little bit of time for me to start to sort of believe, I guess, I was a Blue Devil, if that makes sense. So is that what you were talking about when you said that, or was there something else?
100%. No, 100%. Like it really happened it happened more at RCC than it happened at Blue Devils. It was weird because obviously now I'm like marching with the most talented drummers and I'm standing right next to them, it's like it's crazy. Obviously I had a lot to learn. And when I make a mistake, I'm the type of person like if I make a mistake, like I'm like I need to work on it. I need to like hone in on it, and I need to like But I think I was like a little bit too much on myself, that maybe caused like then to me think of myself as like I'm not as good.
Yeah.
And then I don't think like the spark of like you're here and you made it here for a reason didn't really spark until like the last couple of weeks of the season, which is exactly when we needed it.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely. It's tough, man. Like it's hard because you look at these groups so highly, and then when you become a part of it, it just doesn't feel real in some ways,
No, fully.
So
I had a very similar thing where it was like it was constantly just going through the season, and then we went undefeated. Like, and every time we win, it would give not just the core a boost, but it would give me personally a boost. Like this is I'm in the right place, kind of thing. And so yeah, you certainly grow, don't you, as you go through it. Well, another thing that stood out to me. So this is more to me than some other guys might maybe watching. But I read a lot of books. Now, when I did drum corps, I didn't read a single book. I read my first book literally like maybe 7 years ago. I was just not into books at all. And someone asked you a question about leadership, and you mentioned Ray Dalio, Gary Vee, and people like that. And I was like, no way, this guy reads books. Like when I was your age, I was not interested in books. Like, is that something you're into? Is that something like your friends are into, or
Yeah, well, it's really funny. Like I remember it was I don't know. It was not too long ago. It was like maybe a couple years ago when I had a friend, to tell me, and he's actually the guy that told me to start YouTube. It's kind of funny. It brings it around full circle. And he's like, and he basically told me like if like this book, I'm gonna give it to you, but like most people I give this book to never read it.
Yeah.
And that to me like really like it really got to me because I'm obviously like a person to like take on a challenge. So like I was like, screw it, like I'm gonna take this challenge on. I read the book, and it completely changed my life. It was Maximum Achievement by Brian Tracy.
Yeah.
And that book just like I feel like that was the like the start of me like realizing that in order to be like successful or to have the things that I want, I have to like actually focus in on them and like make them really, really clear. And yeah, I was never a book person either. I never read ever, but I think I wasn't reading like material that I enjoyed, if that makes sense, And then when I actually read something that like struck to me, and I was able to like work on myself, it was a lot more, I was way more into it. And ever since then, I've been like a lot like I've been documenting. I think like one thing for like young drummers is to have like a notebook that you constantly keep up with yourself, just so that way you kind of like keep track of your progress, but also like your goals and some things that you need to work on. I think that's super underrated. A lot of people definitely need to hop on that. So
So can
to
I
me, like,
can I jump in there?
what's up?
So can I jump in
Yeah.
there because I want to give like especially young guys like actionable things they can take from this and do. So I think that's an awesome idea, and I'd love you to expand on that more. So you would have a notebook, you'd write in what sort of things would you write? You'd write what you're practicing.
Yeah, like what I would do sometimes is I would write down something that I want to practice. So it's like, okay, if I want to practice paradiddles, then I'd write paradiddles, like pretty basic. And then, either I would write down how much time I'm spending on that, or I'd write what exercises I'm doing it on. And then maybe from there, when you practice them, write what you like noticed. Because then like you start building your self-awareness. You start understanding like um the more dialogue you have with yourself about like, okay, what am I playing, and then like how am I thinking about it, and like like that connection, the stronger that is, the more self-aware you'll be, and then the more someone else will be able to tell like, oh, this person's able to like tell what they're playing, or kind of like analyze what they're playing. So I think that's super underrated. So I either like just keep up to date with yourself, like any rudiment or showpiece or something that you noticed, or mechanic. I think mechanics too, like understand like, okay, wrist is like you can write down wrist, and then write down what I use wrist for, and then you write down all the things you use wrist for, or what I use arm for. You use arm for these things. What is a legato stroke? Just I keep up to date with yourself, and then every time you learn something new, you write it in, and then I just think that's what you should be writing in there if that's gonna be what you want to do.
No, I think I completely agree. I think the big thing about it is it's very hard as you get good at any skill. I mean, some guys on here might be big businessmen or something, but it's very hard to see yourself improving, isn't it? Like you see yourself here, and then all of a sudden you're there, and it's like you don't necessarily see all the hard work in between. And so, lists can help. For me, as a drum kit player, I used to do exactly what you said. In fact, I've got my students ones here next to me, so it literally have like name. It's got like a date, and then I'd write in there what I was doing, and so every day, the next day when I get on drums, rather than practicing something completely random, I was practicing something that related to what I'm practicing. And yeah, well, the people you mentioned there, I mean, a bit like yourself with the books. I mean, I think the people that you mentioned there are quite deep books as well. It's not like a beginner's guide, And so, I really got obsessed with books now, and so I've got Audible, and I'm constantly listening to books, and I'm a bit like what you said. There's so many of my students I'd love to say you need to read this book, and so I just know that so many of them would just be like, God, that looks boring. I'm not doing that. And so that's great that he did that. That he gave you the book and you read it. And is there other guys in the line who are into that stuff?
Yeah. Like Matthew Urich, he reads a lot. He's a really good friend of mine. I'm 100% sure like there's more people in the line that read. The thing that like I want to say, like jumping onto what you're saying, is it's not just like it's not a book. It's not, okay. Drumming and getting to like where you want to get to is kind of like a test to what you want to be doing with like your career or whatever you want to be doing in the future. And I think that's super important because what this has shown me, and like what reading I feel like it's just a mirror. Like I've taught myself like if I can make Budos and RCC, like I'm probably able to do anything I want to do. And reading these books, in the books when I read them, they don't say like and then drum this and drum that. They never say anything like that. It's all about like the way you think. And like this drumming thing, as much as it is physical and like you're obviously you're drumming, it's way more of a mental game, so I think for like me, it's like it's helped me realize that like like I said, this is a test, and if you can like set a goal and achieve it, then you're able to replicate that in other areas for sure.
No, I think also the more goals you then reach, the more comfortable you get with doing exactly what you just said. Once you know it works, it's taking the gamble almost, isn't it, that it's going to work. And so for guys doing drum corps, I mean, you've got to do those 10,000 hours, and you've got to put it in with the hope that you're going to be the next Sean Parra. But there's no guarantee. But the guys who work the most tend to get the most success out of it. Well, we've got a few questions on here. I'm just going to quickly jump across here and have a look. So you've got one of your students on here. I don't want to get his name wrong, but Aden Olguin.
Uh-huh.
Okay, he said hi. What else we got here? So Greg's just said it sounds like it's competitive drumming all year now with indoor and outdoor. So could anyone in the BD line these days that doesn't do indoor? Yeah. So is there any guys that would just do drum corps these days, or is it they just do WGI, or do they do both?
Yeah, that has happened. I don't want to say it's rare. I feel like it differentiates year to year because of, situational things. But most people, I would say the majority, yeah, they are in indoor.
So can you see like at the moment, obviously from 4,000 miles away, like we don't really see drum corps in Europe is certainly declined. And I assume that DCI has just always been there. And I saw people talking recently saying that might be declining. Now, I know that the costs are a problem these days, but WGI seems to help with that. I mean, WGI, would you say that is booming at the moment or growing or?
Yes, I think WGI is growing because it's becoming more of its own thing, and it's been influencing DCI a lot. Like I would say, like the fact that it's so much more intimate, and now you're starting to see a lot of things in WGI kind of play a role in DCI. Like, obviously we don't have like most cores don't have shakos anymore.
Yeah.
Indoor you never wear shakos. So now it's like you actually might have to start showing some expressions or whatnot or stuff like that. And I think WGI, I think that like since the shows are a lot more intimate and people are like really into designing shows, I think that's why it's growing so rapidly, because every year, every show is just like, dang, this is amazing. Like I feel like there's you're starting to see that more and more often, that these shows are so much more advanced, which is really great to see. So yeah, I think it's definitely like it's ramping up for sure.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's certainly getting a lot. Like for us over here, like I said, there are circuits, but YouTube is kind of the way that we judge it. Certainly the video. There's more videos now on WGI, and the lot has become a big thing. I mean, the lot has always been a big thing for drummers, and I would say in maybe late 2000s, Line started doing. So instead of playing double beat paradiddles and 8 on a hand, they would have an exercise that was 10 minutes in length. Blue Coats, I think, was the first one I saw it, but that's almost the thing to do now, isn't it? Is WGA? It's almost like you seem to have songs almost. What's the word? Etudes? I don't know what the correct word is.
Yeah. It's so funny. It depends what group you're in, because I know like off the top of my head, like Broken City, indoor.
Yeah.
They definitely do that.
Yeah.
RCC, we don't do that. It's completely different. And the way, like, at least the way they do it, it's like each warm up is like you said, a song, kind of, and it's like a huge performance. And for RCC, like the way we interpret it is more like we will do bite-sized things, and just zone in on those things. So even though like I don't know, it just different groups have different ways of operating.
Yeah. Everyone's got their own thing, haven't they? Well, okay, so what have I got written down here? So I've got what's next. So you've sort of loosely mentioned it. So you've got another year left, yeah? And you've got another year in DCI, another year in WGI, or 2 years in WGI?
One more.
Okay. Now, obviously, I know I don't want you to give me your next 10-year plan or anything like that, but do you see yourself doing drum corps after that, or do you think you'll have a break, or do you like the idea of writing or teaching, or have you not even thought that far ahead?
Yeah, I've actually really enjoyed teaching. Like, I think that is something that, at least like writing music and coming up with like a show concept for, that like one of the schools I teach, actually my alma mater, like doing their indoor show was like, I actually really liked it because I was able to like create something. So that was really cool. But I'm not sure as far as like instructionally teaching a drum corps, but I think there will be opportunity, or maybe I will seek opportunity in doing like my alma mater stuff.
Yeah.
Because yeah.
So that's definitely something you would do. Okay. So I've got only a couple of little questions. So what's the best drum corps item or most used drum corps related item you've ever bought? Someone said gold band when I asked that the other day, which I thought was
gold
cool.
Band. Oh man, that's a really good question. I'm like trying to think about. I'm like trying to think right now about what I was trying to prepare for this summer and what I wanted to get, so that way my summer was easier. Man, that's a really good question. Hold on, I need to think about this.
Okay. Well, you think for 1 second. I'm going to quickly tell everyone they can dial in. So
Go for it.
we'll give them a moment for that. So guys who are just watching at the moment, if you've got any questions, we're coming towards the end now. This is your chance to ask questions. So if you type in now, I'll do my best to read. They're popping up on my left, so I'm having a quick look up here. Some guys are already asking. We'll ask some of those. Yeah, Galaxian Studios. And also, guys, if you're enjoying this video, do me a favor, share it, like it. If you're in any Facebook groups that you think it would be useful to put it in, then drop it in there. So we've got, we've got a couple of other. You had a chance to think yet?
Honestly, I'm so stuck right now. It's so tough to think about that.
So I got a question there. So BD, we used to pull into a school after driving for 8 hours, and then we'd always get 8 hours sleep. That was kind of the rule. And we'd get up at like 2 in the afternoon, and cadets had been up from 6 in the morning or something, and Cavaliers. And cadets was the opposite. It was like if we got there at 2 in the morning, you were getting up at 6 no matter what. Now, how does it work these days? Is it still that you do you get up early on tour, or do you get to lie in? How does that work now?
I will say, I think at Budos they treat us very, very well. Like as far as like they will make sure we get the proper amount of sleep.
Yeah.
There will never really be a time that we'll get off the bus and we'll have to rehearse right away. If anything, we'll get off the bus, we'll set our stuff down, we'll take a nap, and then we'll go to rehearse. So, and I've heard about some other, like you just said, like cadets, like how you said, like you get up at 6 in the morning no matter what. I've heard other stories about like corps getting off like a 12-hour bus ride and then immediately rehearsing.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, how can you even do that?
I don't know. I mean,
but yeah.
No, I only brought that up because it came into my head because you said what's the best item you've ever bought. Now the best item that I didn't buy that I was thinking would have been awesome would have been something that blows up that turns those seats into proper beds.
Oh yeah, that would be really nice.
Because you don't get you get no sleep on the bus. Let's be honest. But okay, well we've had Galaxian students have said what's the best tip for standing out amongst all the vets coming back to auditions this year. So I don't know if he means you standing out or if he means that say someone wants your spot this year at BD. How are they going to steal that?
They have to be really, really well. One, they have to be like super, super good. I think it just has to do with like I'm not sure about like beating someone out, but to make sure that you're contending for a spot is obviously be really solid, but to be really confident. And so that way they can see it, right? Like they can notice like you're putting yourself out there to stand out.
Yeah.
But you're also not doing it in a way where it's kind of weird, because I feel like there's also people that try too hard to stand out, and it's just like it almost like it's just too much. So I think it's kind of finding that balance of like you staying cool, because like the whole like it depends also like where you're auditioning or where you're trying to make it. At Blue Devils, like we really like people that are super chill and confident and like just know what they're doing. And that's not like it's not like cocky or anything, but it's really like it falls more in that like I know what I'm doing. I don't have to be aggro about it.
Yeah.
I can be chill about it. So I think it depends for sure.
No, I'd agree with that. I mean, as from teaching perspective, I know that you're looking for people who are going to fit in. And basically what you just said, I want someone who's going to do the job, not giving loads of aggro. And there might be a better player who's a pain in the ass, who's not going to get a spot. And so it does come down to people at the end of the day. You've got to be able to live with these people on a bus and on a field. And I think that we've all known people in lines who would just cause trouble. Or I mean, sometimes it's not even cause trouble. Some people just might ask too many questions. What's going on? And people get annoyed with stuff like that, don't they? You just got to be, like you said, sit, do your job. Look like you know what you're doing, and I think that's probably good advice you're given there. So I've got someone here. Someone said, do you get punished for mistakes? Do you do laps or press-ups anymore?
No.
That's all gone.
I think that's another thing that I think that's a whole nother level of being in these groups is no one has to slap you on the wrist. Like they treat you like an adult. So if you make a mistake, they're going to trust like, you're going to fix it, you often find with like younger groups that they have to kind of like like kind of ingrain that in them instead of like having someone that's mature enough or having a group that's mature enough to know, okay, like if I made a mistake, like I'm gonna work on fixing it or whatever the case may be. And I think that like I said, it's a whole other level of maturity because you have to like one, be mature enough to not freak out about it, but two, like that's the trust is there. They trust. You made it here for a reason. We didn't just like choose you. You made it here because we knew you could like be able to hang and be mature enough to not like explode basically.
Yeah, no, I think you've got the creme de la creme, or however you would pronounce it now, in the top drum lines. I think the talent level now is clearly very high, and I'm guessing that people get their green years out of the way when they're in smaller cores or maybe in WGI. I mean, you've marched RCC 3 times now and DCI twice. I mean, from my era, that would have been a 5-year vet at a DCI core, because obviously it's the same deal really. And so I think you guys are getting so much more game time, for the want of a better word, so that you're set up so that you're the best of the best. So we've got let's have a look. FBI agent, quite a random question, but it's bugging him. Best tips for traditional grip. Best tip for traditional grip. That's hard to do without seeing him, but he's just said, do all fingers stay in contact with the stick? And he doesn't really have an instructor. So quick, I'll give him a quick one. So you've got a YouTube page that first he should go and check out, and once he's checked that out, we've got one as well. So if you go check out Freestyle Rudiments on the YouTube page there, I've got a few lessons on traditional grip, so that might help you. But I used to be a tenor player, so I'm going to ask a snare player. So what's your thoughts on this? So do you hold the stick? Do you release the stick? I guess. I mean, you would know this. I guess guys who are watching, he's talking about when you play, are the fingers leaving the stick, or are they in constant contact?
I would say that they're not always in constant contact. I think you do have to let go for a lot of things. I feel like for the majority of what you play, there's going to be let go, but in a specific area, which is at least in the left hand, it's going to be ring finger to the stick. I feel like that's where like there's that like little separation happens. I don't know if you can see that, but
yeah. Let me change the screen 1 second. So there we go. Full screen.
Okay. Awesome. So I would say like right here. That's like where there's gonna be like small disconnection, every now and then. So like if you're playing legatos, that disconnection is probably gonna be there, because it's like the way I like explaining it is like if you had a basketball or a tennis ball or anything like that, you wouldn't grab the ball and like touch the wall and then pull it back. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You throw the ball and then bounce back in your hands. Same idea. You throw the ball and then like that's your throw. But I would say probably like for the most part, you're probably gonna want to keep your pointer and finger on the stick, but it's mainly gonna be this ring finger that's gonna be a little off more than not. The only times I would make contact is if you're doing an upstroke and you have to pull the stick up, then that contact's gonna be made because that has to actually press the stick up. But yeah.
Yeah, I think there's extremes, isn't there? I mean, I like got a question for you on that basis. So fours. So fours was never a thing. Now fours is a thing. So how are you scraping out those fours? Are you leaning into the stick? Are you squeezing?
No. It's fours are definitely something that like you have to spend time with, because it's a certain the way we talk about it, it's a velocity throw. The faster you throw the stick into the head, the more bounce you can get out of it. So it's like if you're playing like double strokes, whatever, right? That's kind of like low velocity. You start playing threes, that's a little bit higher velocity because you're getting 3 notes now. And then fours, it's same thing. You throw the stick a little bit faster into the head. Now you're getting more notes out in that time. So I think it depends on the first initial throw. It's really difficult because I think oftentimes we'll throw the stick and then around like ta we'll start trying to put notes in rather than like throwing the first note and then like letting like whatever velocity stroke you threw into it take care of the rhythm. So it's something that you definitely have to train yourself with because it's a little awkward to get used to.
Yeah, I can vouch for that. It is awkward. Okay, so we've got a couple of other quick questions coming in. So okay, so nerves. So have you got any thoughts on getting over nerves? Have you got any tips for some people?
Yeah, like I'll be honest, like right now, like before this interview I was nervous a little bit.
Yeah.
It's like all you have to do is just breathe. You have to breathe. And then I think one thing that I've like really I always told myself, and then it is always true. It is always 100% true. Is the way you perceive in your head is way more like intense than in reality. So if you can just like kind of check yourself and be like, am I making this a bigger situation than it actually is? Or like kind of ask yourself those things, and then it just try relaxing. I think that's the biggest thing is like you're not gonna do yourself any good by like tensing up and being nervous. It's just like whatever happens, and you just have to learn from every experience.
Yeah, fully. I mean, I've read there's a book called The Chimp Paradox that I always kind of recommend to people. Maybe go check that one out. So it's a bit deep reading, but if you wean the bits out of that, there's some interesting stuff in there. And for me, exactly the same. I was nervous every time. In fact, I do one of these videos. The thing that you guys probably don't know when I'm doing it live or not, I come out of here sweating like ridiculous, and it's not even hot, but it's just like that nervous sweat that you get. And so I know I'm nervous. Like not right now, my hands are, and I don't feel nervous, but there's something about the human body gets into that fight or flight, and once it's in there, you've either got to learn to live with it, or you can't fight it, really, can you? You're going to get nervous, like you said.
Yeah, you will 100% get nervous. So something else too is energy can like be redirected into other areas, and a good thing to do is like try tricking yourself. Like if you feel nervous, try putting that somewhere else. Like if you feel in your hands, try putting in different, like put it in your mind. Like I think that's another thing. It's like try making nervous feel more like of an excitement feeling, because those two are like really close together. Being excited about something and being nervous about something are really close together. So if you can try getting more of your nervousness to an excited state, then it will work for you rather than against you.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think one of the things that you get, which you would have lots of experience with WGI especially, is the more often you get nervous, it starts to become almost like a normal feeling. Same with any job. If you do something enough, like I play drum kit now, and I don't really get nervous ever, because I've got nervous so many times that maybe my body does, but I know the feeling. My nerves now, like tonight, I was, is an English phrase for you, but bricking it, worried about but not so much about this chatting, because this part's, it's cool just having a chat with you, but it's about the technology. Like, is the computer going to crash? Is this mic going to fall over? And so you just, like you said, for me, that I'm always going to be nervous. Well, we've got someone else. Cole's just asked advice for finding groups to get into should you audition for several. Yeah, maybe that's a good question. So when you had your mind set on RCC. Did you audition for and BD? Did you audition for lots of groups, or was it just did you just go straight in and focus on that?
Yeah, they were the only groups. Yeah, they were the only groups I really wanted to be in. Like I never, obviously, I marched Dark Sky, but Dark Sky at the time we didn't even make finals. So like obviously like there was still a huge separation between like Dark Sky and RCC, but I never ever considered marching any other group. And I mean, like I never auditioned for any other group. I did consider marching. Like I remember when I first did Alon, my plan was to march RCC and Vanguard, and then like that was completely different. Then like I started finding out about the style.
You've just said that everything on video now. There's evidence now.
Yeah. So yeah, and I thought that's what I wanted to do, and then like the more I found out about it, the more I realized, actually this is what I want to do. So I think you have to really like something that else that's underrated is spending time with yourself and asking yourself these questions, like what group do I want to end up at, like what group do I want to like stay with. And there's some people that are like, I want to march 1 year here and then 1 year here and then 1 year here, and it's like, okay, like I totally get that, like I totally understand, but I feel like the reality of that is probably not super high. So I feel like, I mean, you could try doing that, but more than often than not, like people will go to a corps and either enjoy the experience and then decide to stay there, or not enjoy it, go to another corps, and then they'll stay at that corps. And that's the way I feel like it's always happened. So I feel like it will continue to happen. So I think the smartest thing for you to do is just like look at what groups you love the best, and then go for those, because then now you're not practicing any other like material. You're not being distracted by like, oh, I want to learn this packet, or I need to learn this packet. You're focus on one thing.
Yeah. No, I think that's great advice. I think that plan B can sometimes distract from plan A. Ironically, I'm moving house soon, and I was in the loft a couple of days up cleaning stuff up, and I found a bunch of stuff, and I found SCV and Phantom Regiment, like the letters to kind of send off for packets, auditions, and that was obviously some people I considered at the time, but I never sent those off. So yeah, I'd sit with you on that. We've had a few people saying they're enjoying it. So we've had someone said to check out your video on YouTube for technique where you put the pen in your hand. I've seen that one. That is a good one worth checking out. Right, I want to start to wrap up because I want to be considerate of your time, and also I want to talk a little bit about YouTube a little bit more. So I'm going to put up your account quickly now. So go check out Sean's YouTube if you haven't seen it already. There's videos on there. I mean, I did this screenshot a couple of days ago, and there's already loads more videos on there. So for drummers, you're going to love it. For non-drummers, then in the future, then there may be other stuff going in there anyway. Okay, I want to wrap things up. So I want to basically, first of all, thank you for coming on. We appreciate you giving your time to us. It's been awesome. Everyone's learned a lot, and everyone can now know who you are when they're checking you out next year at BD and RCC. So it's going to be good. I got one last question for you. So if you could give some knowledge then back to I don't know how old you were then, but say a 15-year-old Sean, is there anything that you would say to yourself back then that maybe you know now to help him get where you are now, maybe faster?
Yeah, I guess the main thing I would say, well, we've talked about a lot of things, like obviously reading and writing down goals, but main thing than anything else is everything's going to work out. Everything's going to work out exactly the way it needs to. You know, everything happens for a reason. So there's no point in it. Basically, just don't worry about anything and just enjoy the moment. Because, you know, these moments, like everything just kind of like, you do a season and it's gone. You know, it's like, well, why worry the whole time? You know, just like, I think that's one big thing. It's just like everything's going to work out the way it needs to. And if it doesn't, say if I didn't make the group, it still would have worked out. You know, I would have probably marched another group that I really enjoyed doing. And it's like, biggest thing too, side note from this is like, don't let getting to a specific core be what is like going to make you happy. Because then you won't enjoy the activity, you know? Like, and then even if like maybe you make this group, maybe you still don't enjoy the activity. You have to enjoy like drumming and being around people. And then it doesn't matter where you go. It matters like kind of like how you make the season happen or how you interpret the season.
Yeah, fully. Awesome. Well, like I said, we appreciate you coming on. Right, a couple of quick things from me then to kind of wrap up. So as we said, this is a 6-week Marching Drummers Challenge. For 6 weeks, we're going to be giving out as much knowledge as we can. We're getting some awesome guys on like Sean, some awesome people to interview and get as much knowledge as we can from them. If you guys are enjoying it, come hang with us on Saturday. First thing to do is probably get yourself on Facebook in a Marching Drummers Lounge group. It's a free group. All there is in there is information on marching drumming. We've got the previous lessons that we've done, and there's some lessons on Freestyle Rudiments. I've already mentioned, go check out Sean's site. Now, I had one other thing I was going to show you again, which is to give you an idea of what's going on. So these are the live lessons. So the basics are, we watch people like you actually, Sean. We watch you play BD, 8 on a hand or 12 on a hand or whatever you do, and I write it down and we teach people how to do it. Now, the exercises are all based around creating an effective routine for people at the moment. At the end, we have a bit of a drum hang and we go through them. And we're trying to do it over 6 weeks. So by the end of the 6 weeks, we might be playing some of the more difficult stuff. So much appreciated. Thanks for hanging with us, everybody. Thanks for watching, and see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.